So if we haven't met, I'm Joyce. I'm the assistant minister here. Dr. Edward is in Costa Rica and he's going to Mexico, but he'll be back next Sunday. And meanwhile, here we are looking at this topic, the consciousness that heals. As you may know, in addition to our books of the month, we have been spending the year going through Ernest Holmes' Living the Science of Mind, where there's shorter readings, and we're up to about page 247 now, and that's the title of this article, The Consciousness That Heals. So I first want to take a moment to be sure that we know what we're talking about when we talk about consciousness. Because when I first walked in here, there were certain words that people were using that I wasn't so clear on the meaning, and actually this was one of them. I started saying it myself without being exactly clear what it meant. And so how I'm working with this word today, consciousness, as a state of mind, a state of being. So what is the state of mind that allows for healing? What is the state of being that heals? That's what we're looking at. And healing, of course, is often defined as making whole, W-H-O-L-E. However, if you've been here and following along with Dr. Edwards' talks, you know that in our tradition, we don't really believe that something's broken, that it needs to be fixed. What we believe is that spiritual perfection, the perfection of the Divine One, is everywhere, and the process of healing is actually the process of revealing, of our perceiving that wholeness. So here we are, the consciousness that heals, the state of mind that will allow for us to know the perfection of life, every aspect of our life, not just physical healing, but finances, relationships, you name it. So I was thinking about, what is the consciousness that heals? And it occurred to me that it has three aspects. The first aspect, Sky was singing about, and I think it's probably clear from our experience when you reflect on moments where you actually felt good versus moments when you didn't feel so good. The determining factor was love. So imagine your state of being if someone smiles at you or does something kind for you or appreciates you versus your state of mind if somebody criticizes you or belittles you. Or I even notice in myself if I'm criticizing somebody else. So in the moments where love is present, we tend to feel better than in those moments where we've hidden it from ourselves. I know that when I'm being criticized, I experience a lot of tension and stress, and more and more research has shown that if you take any disease and go back to its root cause, it will be stress. However, the great news, at least from my experience, it seems that stress and love cannot coexist in the same moment. So if I'm feeling stressful, if I can remember to do anything I can to invoke that experience, that feeling of love, whether it's expressing it or noticing it, anything I can do to bring about that consciousness of love, I notice does help me feel better. And I was curious, are there actually studies that show that love is good for our health? So I went online, and lo and behold, there were quite a few that showed that when we are in an atmosphere of feeling a positive affirmative connection to another person, that all kinds of conditions, health conditions, get better. Cold symptoms, and the immune system improves, and depression and anxiety diminish. So there are actually now studies showing us that love is a good thing. And it's probably no surprise to us. I mean, the mystics over the centuries have this in common, that it's very hard for them to describe their experience, but they often have the message that the most important thing is love. In fact, Jesus, first century, gave us the roadmap to a happy life. He said, love one another. Saint Catherine of Genoa, 16th century, she was, after one of her mystical experiences, her message was, love conquers all. Echoed by Martin Luther King, who said, hate can't get rid of hate, only love can replace hate. And then, what the Beatles told us. In no uncertain terms, all you need is love. And interestingly, not too long before that, a couple decades before that, the author of our philosophy, Ernest Holmes, wrote these words: "Love is the highest principle that love has to give us because it is life acting in unity with itself." Love is the highest principle that life has to give us because it is life acting in unity with itself. Love is the greatest of all healing agencies. I find that very interesting to remember that Ernest Holmes was into love. We think of him so much as his teaching of being about how you can activate the power of the universe to your benefit and pay attention to your thinking. But here he's saying love is the greatest of all healing agencies. That's the concept here. It's love that heals. So what does this all mean to us? How can we apply this healing power of love in our daily lives? Well, I think the encouragement here is not so much, let's not think of love in a grand term, but just in its daily expressions, the ability to appreciate something or say thank you for something or notice something good. I think the encouragement here is to bring in the consciousness of love in any way you can. Love for yourself, love for others, noticing good, exercising gratitude. In any situation, even one that's messy and you're not liking, just inviting the consciousness of Spirit's love to consider what are the highest thoughts of good, the highest thoughts of good I can have in each moment as I navigate this situation. In other words, what can I do right here, right now, to notice love, to give love, and to receive love in this moment and in every moment going forward? The second aspect of a consciousness that heals, faith. Now, faith is a big word. For some of us, it's a charged word, but it simply means belief. What do you believe in? On Wednesday evenings this year, we've been having a free class. And for June and July, we've been looking at the book entitled Cure, A Journey into the Science of Mind over Body by Dr. Joe Marchant. Now, the very beginning of the book describes studies done with placebos. Now, you know the traditional study with placebo. Traditionally, when there is a new drug that might go onto the market, it's tested. There's an experiment. The participants know what the drug is supposed to do. What they don't know is who's actually getting the drug and who's getting a fake substitute, something that looks like the pill but actually has no active chemical agent. And inevitably, people in the control group experience, the people in the placebo group experience the benefits of the drug. If the benefits that the people who took nothing are in the amount that's close to the number of people who experience the benefits of the drug is declared no good. Because think of it, I mean, if people are taking nothing and they're having as great a results as your new drug, well, it doesn't say much for your new drug. Now, the interesting shift is that people started studying placebos themselves. Why are placebos having results when there's no active ingredient in them? And it was found that people who actually know they're taking a placebo experience benefits. They know it. In fact, the author of the book, a doctor, she found a firm in England. It was originally started sort of tongue-in-cheek. This company manufactures placebos. You can get, like blue pills and green pills and red pills. And she ordered pills that look like her headache pills. And she knows they're placebos. And when she has a headache, she takes her placebos and her headache goes away. So, what is going on here? Well, research has found that the belief that something will help causes a neurochemical reaction in the body that brings about the desired result. So the belief activates the body's own healing mechanisms. And they've even found this with some types of surgery, where someone, instead of getting the actual surgery, will just have the doctor poking at their back. It's amazing, the power of belief. There's an ancient story about the placebo effect. And it comes from the Christian Bible, where there's a woman who's had a disease for 12 years, and she wants to be healed, and she knows that Jesus is a healer, but he's busy and surrounded by people, and she thinks to herself, if I just touch the hem of his garment, I'll be healed. Talk about a placebo. She wants to touch a piece of cloth, okay? And she does. And he notices and he says to her, your faith has made you whole. It's your faith that has now healed you. And indeed, the disease never returned. One of my favorite stories about this power of belief and healing comes from the chicken soup of the soul of Hawaii. And it's a story about a 5-year-old named Timmy at elementary school. The story itself is written by his teacher, and it tells of a day when Timmy slammed a door on his finger, and actually his index finger, and actually took off the top. And by the time he was taken to the hospital and they found the tip of the finger, it wasn't good enough to actually be able to sew back onto his finger. So his teacher goes to see him in the hospital, and the teacher actually knows a traditional Hawaiian healing technique, and she decides to, she could offer it to this boy. So she said, Timmy, did you know that geckos, those are the lizards that run all over the Hawaiian islands, did you know that geckos grow their tails back and little boys can grow their fingers back too? And so his little eyes got very big and round, and he said, they can? And she, with certainty, said, yes, they can. How, he asked. She said, close your eyes and I'll show you. And then she did the technique. She began, Timmy, inside your head you have a little voice. Do you know the voice I'm talking about? Uh-huh, he nodded, his eyes still closed tightly. She said, with that voice inside your head, tell your finger how much you love it and how much you need it. Tell your finger that you need it to dial the phone. I paused, reaching his little lips, silently repeat my words. And to write your sentences in school. Once again, I paused so he could repeat the words. And tell it how much you need it to point at things. Now, just say, grow for me, finger, grow. I love you and I need you. After a few moments, he opened his eyes. How was that, I asked. His tear-stained face glowed. I said to him, remember to do this every time you think of it during the day and wish your finger well. Kissing him on the forehead, I said my goodbyes and started toward the door. Then I suddenly realized something. If the adults in his life are not aware of the real power of this technique, they might discourage him. Not wanting limiting beliefs to swallow up Timmy's possibilities for a miracle, I returned to his bedside. Timmy, I told him, let's wait until your finger is completely healed before we tell anybody about this special technique. Okay, he replied. A few days later, Timmy arrived back at school with a large bandage on his finger. With a big grin on his face, he walked up to me and said quietly, I'm talking to my finger every day, wishing it well, and it's listening to me. Weeks later, with a joyful burst of energy, Timmy sprinted toward me. He proudly pulled the bandage off to show me the result of his work. See, he said, it's growing back really good. A year later, Timmy's family was moving out of the neighborhood, and he came to say goodbye to me. His finger was completely healed. It was round and padded just as any index finger should be. Only a fine hairline scar remained. Now, I think there's two important things here in when we want our belief to actually bear results. And one of them is to not let the naysayers know what we're doing. Yeah? So, like you're focusing on your dream job and you tell somebody and they go, oh, you'll never get that job. We don't need that. We don't need that. The other thing, you notice the advice was to, anytime you think about your finger, do the technique. So Holmes was very good in cautioning us. He said, you cannot do a treatment for your headache, a mental treatment affirming your belief, and then the next moment, if somebody says, how are you, talk about your headache. No, anytime you think about the condition, you have to exercise the belief in the thing that you desire. Two words of caution here for us metaphysicians as we apply this law of healing, which is, it is done unto you as you believe. Holmes said that a lot. He was paraphrasing Jesus. It is done unto you as you believe. Two things for us to remember. Some things are out of our control. Let us exercise some spiritual humility. As you know, if I'm standing in an earthquake, I'm not going to beat myself up for personally having caused the earthquake. And the second thing is that if, some situation is messy in our lives, okay, it doesn't really do any good to say, what was I thinking? What was wrong with me? What was I believing? No, it doesn't help. The point of power is in the present moment. The point is, here's the situation. How do I start to work on it now? How do I bring in the power of faith, the power of love now? There is, someone once said, the bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. And the turn we're making here is to remember that whatever came before, the power of the Divine One is right here, right now, and we can use it through our thinking, through our belief, to actually change the situation. Well, how do we do this? How do we develop new beliefs? We gather evidence. If I'm wanting to build my personal business and I've set my intention, I'm affirming it, I'm praying for it, I also have to pay close attention to any good, any evidence that my mental work is happening. I have to pay close attention to every good that happens, to every opening and sense of expansion I feel. Plus, we make our way through life based on faith from gathering evidence. I have a very strong belief that when I walk into a room and I flip the switch on the wall, the light will go on. Now, why do I have that firm faith in that? Because I've done it a gazillion times. And so the more evidence that we can gather that it is done unto you as you believe, the stronger will our faith be in being able to apply it. We gather evidence from ourselves, for ourselves, and also we gather evidence when we see other people's good happening to them. Katie doesn't know I'm going to do this, but she is in the front row, and she's been having practitioners pray that she needed a car. And recently, she got a free car. And bless her heart, she's been witnessing this to everybody. I love stories like that. In fact, when you put in a prayer request or get a prayer treatment in Gritton Chapel, there's also an opportunity. There's a little card that says, let us know if the prayer got answered. Was there, as Holmes said, a demonstration? And we've got a collection. People do tell us about, yeah, you prayed for this and I got it. It's wonderful. I mean, it certainly increases my faith in this power of belief. And by the way, very soon there will be a display of anonymous demonstrations that we have permission to display to show what people have asked for in prayer and how it has shown up. So that's the first two aspects of the consciousness that heals, a consciousness of love and a consciousness of faith. What's number 3, the final one? The ability to receive. Now, at first glance, this might seem like the easy bit, like, oh, you might be thinking, I've got to develop my capacity to love, and geez, I've got to strengthen my faith, but receiving? Pfft, piece of cake. Well, I wonder, as I think about my own experience and perhaps yours, I notice that I'm very willing to offer assistance to other people. Can I help you? Oh, you're struggling. You have a lot to carry. Can I help you? And yet when people do the same to me, what's my response? No, thanks, I'm fine. Or, I'm very eager to look at something I admire in a person, their hairstyle or their shirt, and comment on it. But I've had to train myself to actually say thank you in a state of openness when somebody gives me a compliment, rather than going, oh, well, they must be nuts if they think my hair looks good. What's wrong with their vision? And of course, when we are with other people, it certainly seems like it's easier to love them than to believe that they could possibly love us. Recently, Kim and I celebrated our 37th wedding anniversary. Thank you, yes, thank you. And he looked at me and he said, gosh, who would have ever imagined that someone could have lived with either of us for 37 years? Yes, it is funny. And it sort of reminds me, how it is easier to feel love towards somebody, to sometimes believe they actually love us. In fact, it's also often easier to love somebody else than to love ourselves. Have you noticed that one? Homes. It is impossible for you to receive that which your mind refuses to accept. It's impossible for you to receive that which your mind refuses to accept. So I just want to think for a moment, is there any good in your life that mentally you're refusing to accept, either by thinking, I don't deserve it, I can't be true? What we're talking about is the law of receptivity, and here's a way that he explained it. Life delivers itself into our capacity to receive it. The outpouring from the cosmic horn of plenty can only fill the cup that is lifted up toward it. The law of receptivity. I mean, in my own mind, I have to translated into the law of being served ice cream. If I'm at somebody's house and they offer me a scoop of ice cream and I say yes, they give me a scoop. Then if they say, would you like some more? Whatever I say, they're going to do. So if I really want more ice cream, but I have some idea I'm supposed to be polite, I say no, thank you, that's how they'll respond. It's the law of receptivity in action. We have to be mentally open to receiving before the good will make itself known to us in form. Here's some more homes. Even God cannot give us anything unless we are in a mental condition to receive the gift. And he advises us, should we not then consciously develop the ability to receive more, we make life little and mean and limit our own possibilities when we refuse to accept the whole gift of God. We should open our consciousness to a receptivity of the divine. There will never be any point of saturation because God is infinite. We cannot contract the infinite, but we can expand the finite. Right here, we can expand our ability to receive more and more of infinite good. So how do we develop this consciousness of receptivity? Well, quite simply, I would practice, as I do practice more and more, the ability to say yes when good comes my way. Somebody offers help, yes, thank you. And I quickly think of something they can do. A compliment, thank you. Nice state of openness, thank you. Even, would you like this vase? Not in 100 years. Yes. Thank you. And then I just pass it along to somebody else. So we've been looking at these three aspects of the consciousness that heals: a consciousness of love, a consciousness of faith, and a consciousness of receptivity. So as we conclude today, I'd like to invite you to experiment mentally with expanding your awareness of love and faith and receptivity. I invite you to turn within, perhaps close your eyes and nice relaxed opening to good. And simply bring your awareness to something in your life that you'd like it to be better, some aspect of your life where you would like to experience more well-being. Just gently focus on this area. And know with me that right where it is, right where you are in it, the Divine One itself is present. In other words, God has not gone anywhere. Spirit is at work right here, right now, present as divine love, divine givingness, divine comfort, divine abundance, divine harmony, divine wholeness. And as you relax your body, let the breath of Spirit flow through you into this situation. And allow yourself to see the love, to notice the love that is already present right here, right now. And as you witness this love, as you affirm your desire to continue to witness love in this situation, remember with me that there is a law of good in action working for you. It desires your highest good, so you can anchor yourself in the belief and faith that your highest good is unfolding and being revealed even now in this situation. Your highest good. I invite you to surrender to this good, to say yes to it, to relax your body and mind and spirit into a calm state of accepting and receiving the good offered in this moment, in all moments. And so it is.